Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my previous video was messed up, having audio difficulties. But anyways, as I said before, this video is very important because we have a midterm coming up a little over a month away. And everything on this video will be covered or will be on the midterm exam. Okay? So let's think ahead a little bit here and you know, just prepare. But anyways, here we go. So here is one of the graphs of an exponential function we got to be very good at, guys. And I just want to make sure you understand that we always go through the same steps. Step one, we must have a table. Alright, always please use a table when graphing these more complex functions. Now, what numbers to use for x? Well, the key thing is right there. We know we have an x power. This is, after all, exponential function. And there's no nicer power than the zero power, right? The zero power. So I'm going to put 0 in the middle of my table. And I'm going to pick a couple of numbers above 0, or below 0, I should say. -1, -2, and 1, 2. And remember to always keep them in order. And I'm going to add a number 3 because I know I need that extra number in there. But the key thing to always remember with tables, guys, you really do need at least 5 or 6 points. At least 5 to 6 points on these kind of graphs. Okay? And again, notice how I kept the numbers in order. Okay? So now let's just go ahead and do the math with our calculators. Now, as you can see on the calculator, let me shrink this one down a little bit. I already did the calculations with my calculator, and the key thing I want to emphasize, guys, is you must make sure you're good with your calculator in completing these calculations with, okay? And anyway, so as you can see, when I plugged in -2 right there, I ended up with 22. And when I plugged in -1, I ended up with a 12. And when I plugged in 0, I ended up with a 7. And when I plugged in 1, I ended up with 4.5. And with the power of 2 right there, I ended up with 3.25. Okay? And then, of course, I decided, hey, you know what? I also need the 3. So, real quick, I'm going to do the calculations on the 3. And hopefully I can do this under pressure here. But with 3, I ended up with 2.625. 2.625. So let's see what our graph looks like over here. Okay, so -2 was way up here at 22, which is basically off our grid. -1 was at 12. 0 was at 7. 1 was at 4.5. See my little red dot there. 2 was at 3.25, so just a little bit above 3. Okay, and 3 was at 2.6. So just past the middle, somewhere close to there. But anyways, you can see hopefully what our graph is doing. Okay, and I need to point out that this curve, this exponential function, is approaching a value on the bottom right side. That line, y equals 2, is called our asymptote. Okay, asymptote. And the easiest way to find it, I hope you notice, is look at the equation. See that +2 right there? That tells us where our asymptote is. But anyways, the key thing is, did you understand we make a table, number 1? Number 2, do you understand what values we put in our table? In other words, we start with a 0 power. And can we do our calculations with our own calculator? If the answer is no to any of that, guys, we need to fix it quickly. Okay? So pause the video, rewind if you have to. Okay, I want to do a couple more miscellaneous problems. And here was another one I put on the worksheet just to remind you of factoring. So that right there, guys, I hope you agree I can factor. I can go k times k, and 45 is 9 times 5. 9 times 5 gives me that 45 there. Now, how do I get a plus 4? Well, isn't that a plus 9 minus 5? And of course, 9 times negative 5, following the purple there, right? 9 times negative 5, of course, is negative 45. So notice I have the k squared covered, I have the plus 4k and the minus 45 covered, and so I have that factored. Now what about the bottom denominator? Well, isn't that going to be k times k again? And 72 is 9 times 8. And can I get that 17k in the middle? Sure, if I do a plus 9 plus 8, doesn't that give me a plus 17? So now that I have it factored, can everyone look at our new improved problem and see anything that can simplify? And hopefully you agree k plus 9 divided by k plus 9 is 1. So I'm just left with k minus 5 divided by k plus 8. And that is our simplified solution. So pause the video if you need to. Okay. Last problem. Hopefully you recognize the numerator and denominator both as a GCF type of factoring. I wanted to make sure you saw a problem where you did FOIL backwards, okay, with the parentheses, versus one where we're just going to do distributed property backwards, basically. So, looking at the 40 and 16, I hope you know your 8 times tables. And that means I'm left with 5a minus 2, correct? Because after all, 8 times 5 is 40a. 8 times minus 2 would give me the minus 16, correct? Okay. Now what about the denominator? Well, 56 and 32, that one's a little tough. But hopefully, again, you realize that's part of my 8 times tables again. And now I'm left with 7a plus 4. And so now that I have it all factored, does everybody agree 8 divided by 8 is 1, and all I'm left with is 5a minus 2 over 7a plus 4. And there's my simplified answer. Now guys, I apologize if this video went a little bit longer. I was kind of rambling at the beginning. But the key thing I want you to notice, I picked this problem because it reminds you of GCF factoring, right? I picked this problem to remind you that sometimes we have to also do FOIL backwards type of factoring. And of course, the first problem, I was making sure you understood that we needed a table. We need to know how to use our calculator. We need to know how to find those points and graph it. And hopefully, you're now a little bit more familiar with asymptotes. Until next time, bye.